So replacing these brake lines is probably the easiest pair of the lot, just because it's such a small section and it's so accessible and stuff. Most of the fluid, unfortunately, is already drained from doing the other two lines that I've done previously. So there's not a lot of fluid left. There's a little bit in the caliper that'll drain out, but again, just having a little container handy is always a good idea. But firstly, I'm just going to crack all the nuts, because these have been sitting here for quite a while. So this one especially, this will require a bit of force to crack. So 10mm up here, and then this is a 14mm banjo bolt. Fingers crossed for this one. Hey, there it goes. Sometimes sound like you're going to break something or crack something, but it's just the amount of crud that's caught in there. I'll whack my knuckles, I just know it. There we go. Cracked it nicely. It's left over, there's not much of it, but a little bit there. You can see it's a banjo bolt, so it has two inlets on either side and then an outlet through the bottom there. Now don't forget that on this brake line there is like a little washer seal thing that goes around the actual brake line. It helps to seal it so nothing goes in or out. Banjo bolt come through like that. A tricky bit is getting this all lined up. Yes, I did. Feel it. You'll feel when it goes tight, and then you just nip it up a little bit further just to make sure that seal has filled the gap. There we go. So I'm happy with that. That side's on. Now because we've cracked this, it'll make it a lot easier. So there's that brake line out. A little bit of gunk on the end of them. Need to remove this clip. Little U-shaped bit like that. So there's our old brake line. Yucky and full of schmutz. See that the two square sides and the rounded bit, they are specific to this car, probably to Toyotas or to Land Cruisers or something. But when you get your brake lines, you always have to make sure they have this pattern and it's the same size as the factory pattern, because that's what these U-clips go over, and they go in a little slot. You can see a slot through here, and they slot in like that and stop it from rotating inside a little housing here. So when you're doing up that 10mm nut, the whole brake line isn't spinning. Comes around in the same direction. Push it against there, and I can then insert that clip like so. So now this brake hose is locked into place, so it's not going to rotate. So then this side just goes in. Make sure you push the hose all the way, you sort of seat it at the bottom before you start doing the nut up, otherwise you'll end up on it with them on an angle. So now that's in, that's turning nice and easy, not cross-threaded. Again, you don't have to go too crazy tightening these up. You want them tight, but you don't want to have to bend them, because it is just brake hose, brake line. These metal pipes will bend, but eventually they'll break. So that's the rear hoses done. That was very quick and easy. Yeah, just have the front ones to do, and then should have really good braking response, which would be awesome. So now that's all done, we can move on to the handbrakes. So we'll take the caliper off, take the drum off, and then we'll get on to changing the handbrake shoes over. Like so, and I'll just put that over there. So the rotors should come off pretty easy once you've taken the caliper off. So once you've released your handbrake, this should just slide off. If not, there are there's a little threaded hole in here that you can use. This one's an M6 nut, M6 bolt. Screw that in. That'll push against the axle housing and actually push this one off. If not, then you can just use a pry bar and eventually you'll get it off. So this comes out of the way. And there's your handbrakes. All sorts of things stuck in there. It's quite loose. I think the springs come loose on this one. Well, that's about as much as I can do today, unfortunately. So I pulled the handbrake apart, and one side was just complete, had just fallen apart. All the bits in there, all the yuckies. So that's pretty horrible. And then there's the handbrake shoes that came out of it. See this one? It's actually worn through the shoe and was rubbing metal on metal. All of them are pretty bad. Probably just from mud running against them. Anyway, there's the new ones. So pretty keen to get them in and give them a try. And the new little dog bones. They're actually a little bit longer. They're about 10-20 mil longer than the other ones. So hopefully they should push the handbrakes shoes apart a lot more and give a bit better clamping force.
Day 3.
Happy Sunday morning all. So, bit of an update for the handbrakes. The springs, the little clips and stuff that hold the handbrake shoes in place, one side has just deteriorated and the other side's not too far off. I've just been cleaning off all the dirt and rust and stuff inside, like all in the springs and components and stuff, and they're pretty much ready to get thrown out, which isn't too bad. They've lasted 15 years or something. So I'm gonna have to get a new set of those. So it's Sunday now, so either tomorrow or Tuesday I'll hopefully try and get a set. If not, it may take a week or two to get them from eBay or wherever. So we're going to move on and do the front brake lines. These are the last two I have to do. They're like 6 inches longer than the factory lines, which is a little bit excessive, but I'm just going to loop them over themselves and make it work because they're nice and shiny and I don't want to have to wait to go and get another set. So there it is, new brake line all installed. It is about 6 inches longer than the factory line, which is a bit longer than I had hoped for, but you gotta work with what you get sometimes. So this kind of does kind of hang out a little bit, which may end up contacting the wheel when the wheel is turned, but I'm just going to use a cable tie and hold that back there. That way if it needs to, it can use the full length of the new hose, but more often than not it'll be called up out of the way. So rinse and repeat for the other side. Alright, now it's time to get started on these body mounts. I'm going to start with the rear one first, just because it's mostly accessible. It's that one there. I've already loosened it off a little bit. It's just a 17mm nut. You do need to hold this center section. You can use an, I think it's an 8mm spanner. So hold that one and undo that nut. I just thought I'd crack it just to save me looking silly on camera. Now, you do need to access the top of it, which if you've got a drawer system, like I do, may mean pulling things apart. So you need to access behind this panel, right at the back here. So for me, I'll take off this the rubber seal, that'll come off. This bottom strip I've already taken off. This just pulls away, or dirt and everything falls out from it. And then this plastic panel will just unclip, just pull it away, get rid of that access hatch, and then you have to just reach down until you find the rubber grommet that's facing upwards. Otherwise you won't be able to push the bolt up high enough to get it out of the way to put the new bush in. So yeah, let's get started. So I'll just show you where this bolt ends up. If you go under here, you can see there's this little access hole down here. That's that bolt. So you can actually raise that up and down, and you need to raise it all the way. For the best effect, you probably have to take it off the car because you have to clean it, because the rust and stuff will actually stop the bolt from sliding in and out of the new bush. So that's what we're going to do. So finally we have everything on the workbench. So these are the two bushes. They come in two halves, top and a bottom. So this is the top section. See, that's very worn out in there, and lots of dirt and stuff in there. A bit of rubber that's meant to be part of the bush. There's this crush tube, which is very corroded and rusty and blown up and full of dirt. Take a bit for me to get that out. And then there's the bottom bush there. Now both the top and the bottom have a metal plate. So they sit like that. Through the center goes this pin, and on the top it has these little wings, which mean that once the bolt's in there, it stops it from turning once you've got tension on it. So very handy having that there. And then a washer and a nut, which are both very rusty. So we're going to clean all this up with the wire brush. Again, you can buy this, you can buy the crush tubes, the washers, the nut, the bushes, everything from Toyota separately. I've got brand new bushes. These I can refurbish, wire brush them back, and should be all good. You guys, oh, I'll show you the new bushes. So these are the brand new bushes. Just to show you guys the difference. So brand new top bush. So again, you can see it's actually got like a star text pattern in there. Not exactly sure why. I think it's for allowing water to drain in and out. But when you compare them side by side, I'll do it that way. You can see just the height difference that makes, and also this rubber ring has been eaten out. That's that big. Let's get to cleaning all this stuff up and throw it back in the car. Welcome to Fabricating 101. If you're a fabricator out there, or someone who works with metal or has any kind of experience with this, I'm sorry for what you're about to see. This is how I do it, and welcome to my channel. So I'm going to be making up a set of spacers to put under the body, or on top of the body mounts. This is technically what they call a body lift. The problem with doing that on wagons is there's a lot of things you need to alter when you raise the body above the chassis. Because anything that's connecting the body to the chassis needs lengthening or adjusting or anything like that. So like your bull bar. So when I did the front body mounts, I had to actually unbolt the bull bar and raise it another, I think about 10 mil or something like that. Otherwise it just looked ridiculous. Things like your steering column, fuel filler necks, any wiring you have to run, brake lines, etc. All that sort of stuff. So when you're doing a off-the-shelf body lift for a wagon, especially a Prado, it gets expensive and it becomes quite time consuming because there's lots of stuff that you have to do to the car that you can't buy off the shelf. You have to get it fabricated. What I've found is that if you want a bit more of a lift, and I've done this on the front and it works pretty fine, is I'm just doing a 6mm lift. So, quarter of an inch, which may not seem like a huge amount, but I think that plus the 10mm or so that's different between the old body mounts and the new body mounts, it gets you sort of that half an inch. What I do is I just use this. Now this is 3mm plate steel, just buy it from Bunnings. This is 50mm wide. See, it covers pretty much most of that. I cut up 2 of these, so I'll cut them to shape as close as I can, and then make 2 of them, and then sit that on top of the new body mount, and that's my body lift. So the way I do that is very easy. Just grab your plate steel on top and literally just trace around it. So yeah, I'll get to cutting this up and we'll go from there. So there's my little body block there. Again, that matches up to that pretty well. So what we're going to do now is basically just replicate that, make 2 of them, and once I've got the second one, I'll stack them like that and drill one single hole Because sometimes I find trying to measure out the center of that one and that one, and you end up with them slightly different. So I just drill the holes once they're both together. So we're going to basically copy this one. So now we have our two spaces there. Again, you got about 6 mil of space there. 6 mil of thickness in total. And they'll just sit like that on top of the body blocks. So now we're just going to drill the center hole in this one. So all I do is just put it straight in the vise, make sure they're aligned as closely as possible. So I know it's 50 mil in diameter, so I just go 25. A little dot there. Now I prefer using a Christmas tree drill bit. Alright, so that's a 12 mil hole. Put it in. This isn't something that's going to come in and out on the car all the time, so really, I mean, once it's in there, it's probably never going to come out again until the car ends up in a hole in the ground. Pretty happy with that. Let's go throw it in the car. So this is the whole body mount. So the pin goes through the top, and then there'll be the spacer plates. Between those two is the actual body of the car. We'll actually go through a hole there and through the top one. Then there'll be the actual chassis mount, which sits between the two rubber spacers, the two rubber mounts. Then you've got the crush tube in the center, the bottom one, and then a washer and a nut. Now one of the hardest things for doing this, that gap you can see there, that's where the top rubber has to go to. And because the previous one has already been squished, that distance will be too small. So you'll need to find a way to make that gap bigger to fit the new body mount in. Once that one's in, you can then pass through the bolt up the top, go through the two new spaces that you've made, and then the rest of it's pretty easy. So with a bit of thinking, I thought I'll jack it up from that point, just under the body there. Had to loosen off the body mounts all along this side, and that's raised it up just enough. So that gap's now big enough for me to squeeze the body mount in, and then we'll put the blocks on top and then drop the pin through, and then we'll be golden. So these are the body mounts going to be replacing next. So these are just behind the front wheel, and these ones are quite a large body mount, which is good because I think most of the weight sits on these. So yeah, same deal with underneath. To get access to the top, you need to go through the car. So there's this rubber grommet. Where are we? This one here. You'll pull him off and you'll see the top of the bolt that you need to get to. I'm not going to go show you every little step of this because you know how it all works, but I'll just run a little video for you.